someone is homosexual and wants sexual relations with another homosexual. It seems very simple to say that society ought to allow that, but the consequence of making this general might be rather disastrous, because it would denigrate marriage. And thirdly, I do think that it's a matter of fact whether God has or has not approved of certain practices.
What I would invite people to do is I would invite people to investigate the history of the Church's relationship to slavery, and particularly the scriptural injunctions towards the ownership of other human beings as private property, the bequeathing of them to your children as inheritable property, and the differential treatment of slaves who are Israelites and slaves who are not. That is mentioned a lot more than homosexuality, in much more detail and with much more moral force. What I wanted to point out is that it's easy to say, well, it's just a fact. If God says this is wrong, then this is wrong. God said a similar thing of slavery, but I hope and trust that most people in this room would disagree with at least that injunction.
Yes, but when the Christian church started, what it says is the Old Testament must be interpreted in the light of the teaching of Jesus.
But of course, also in 1 Peter, we read, slaves, be obedient to your masters, not just the ones who are good.
Yeah, well,
but
I
also
think
the ones who are cruel.
There's enough time of scripture.
We find, I'm not sure that it is. We of course also find Jesus telling an analogy and quite casually including the status of a slave within a metaphor that he was giving to his disciples. In other words, it's certainly normal, still in the New Testament I'm talking about,